This is Lori Grenier. You've seen me on Shark Tank hearing pitches from small businesses. Now, there's a new way for small businesses to get a loan in minutes. It's called Cabbage. That's Cabbage with a K. Just fill out the application online. You'll get an instant decision and could have access to a line of credit of up to $100,000. No waiting, no hassle. Cabbage is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and is a Forbes Top 100 company. Go to Cabbage.com, that's Cabbage with a K, Kabbage, or call 888-CABBAGE.
The Pirates and Cardinals have the best two records in baseball, and they go head-to-head one final time this regular season. Could this be a preview of next week's division series? Coverage begins Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio. This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on ESPNRadio.com. The Best of Mike and Mike.
Hi, it's Greeny. Thanks for checking out the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on a busy NFL Monday. Obviously, plenty of coverage of the injury to Big Ben Roethlisberger. How impressed were we by the Eagles? Answer, not very much. Arizona looks good. New England looks unbeatable. And we have great insight from Tom Waddle, Louis Riddick, and Mike Tirico and Jon Gruden together on our set.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
And good morning. We are back and better than ever. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guest this morning will be on the Subway Fresh Take Hot. And as mentioned, we are in a unique site, a unique space here in the world of sports. We are live. It's a place they call the Tundra Trio. These three houses that they bought directly across from Lambeau Field that you can see directly behind us. And the fans are out early this morning, Mike, and they're ready for Monday Night Football.
They are. Well, listen, this is, as I have said, my son was fortunate enough to play his last preseason game here when he was with the Saints. He was here playing in Green Bay, and I said, enjoy this moment. Enjoy being at Lambeau Field. Enjoy playing here because it's a religious experience for a player. There's no doubt about it. I enjoyed my times here as well. Unfortunately, saw my season come to an end in Philadelphia when Randall Cunningham got hurt, and thanks to Bryce Pop. Yeah, I'm sure all you people here remember quite well. Ended our season quite early here, but it is a fantastic place for fans, players alike. It's NFL football.
Well, I flew in yesterday, which is not the way I've ever arrived before. All my previous trips to Green Bay, I had been working when you would drive here quite easily from Chicago. And what I got to experience then that I didn't now is that you can smell the brats from the highway.
Yes, you can.
When you drive into Green Bay. Didn't get that experience yesterday.
You know where else you can smell the brats? My room. Yeah.
Yeah, Golic is going to have to pay that charge. You have to pay if you smoke in the room. And he didn't, but his is so brat-filled now until the end of time. Let's start with what is obviously overwhelmingly the story. It was a very interesting day in the NFL yesterday, and we got to watch it with the Monday night crew and see all the TVs and every single game on at once. And, of course, the injury to Ben Roethlisberger is the big story. The latest that we are hearing out of Pittsburgh is probably the best case scenario. There could have been a lot of things that could have happened. When you watched that immediately made you think ACL, broken shin, out for the season, all kinds of surgery. It would appear, at least for this moment, as though none of those are going to be the case. So I think that, Mike, right now they're talking 4 to 6 weeks for Ben Roethlisberger. When they were taking him off that field, I think both you and I would have said that's extremely good news.
Oh, I would take that in a heartbeat. You knew it was going to be something. You knew he was going to miss some time, and when you heard just MCL, you hear the two together, ACL and MCL, and usually means you're going to be done. The ACL being the key one there. When you just hear MCL, you're like, okay, you can live with that one, and live they are. It's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. MCL, get hit on the outside. It's a ligament that's on the inside of the knee. So, again, it's like anything else. It's grades. It's stretched. Is it a grade 1, grade 2, grade 3? Obviously, it's a 4 to 6, so it's probably I'm sure it's a grade 1 where they're just going to let it heal up. So, you're looking more when they say 4 to 6, you're probably looking more to the 6 side of it, I think without a doubt. And that's a shame because this team was hitting on all cylinders. There's no doubt about it. Now Michael Vick has to step in. Michael Vick, I still think, can give you some plays every now and then, but unfortunately, he also gives you some big plays for the other team as well. So getting Le'Veon Bell back when they did, he looks as advertised. That defense has to continue to step up with a new defensive coordinator, a young defense, because they're going to have to get it done without Big Ben, who went 20 of 24 when he left this game when he got hurt. So this is a big blow to a team. But of the injuries we've seen, we know Romo's off for a while. We're not sure how long Breeze is out. The word is he may miss another week, and they're 0-3 anyway right now. Cutler could be a week-to-week thing, but this is more of a definite thing, knowing he's out around 6 weeks. You can look at the games from Baltimore, San Diego, Arizona, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Oakland, that they're going to miss some big games in there, a couple of division games. So this is truly one where they're going to need to keep their head above water, because right now the team is Cincinnati. Our preseason picks, I said I felt that the worst about was probably keeping Cincinnati out and putting Baltimore in. And that has certainly come to fruition, as Baltimore looks to be the one out, and Cincinnati is playing some good ball right now. So they do play Cincinnati in that 6 week period. So it's in the 5th week. So if he's back in 4, maybe he's back for it. But if not, he'll miss that one, because that's who they're battling.
They play Thursday night at Baltimore, so short week. So
right.
They don't have any time to sit around and worry about it. As we learned in the case of the Giants, maybe that's actually somewhat good news for them. For what it's worth, the Westgate Superbook in Las Vegas had opened that game. So the line, assuming Roethlisberger was playing, had Pittsburgh a 3.5-point favorite. With the news that Roethlisberger is hurt, the Ravens are now favored by 2.5. Mike, and you can't compare this to the situations with Breeze or Cutler, because those teams stink. The Saints
exactly
stink.
Right.
The Bears stink. The Steelers are a Super Bowl team.
Yep.
The Steelers are my Super Bowl pick. Roethlisberger was my preseason MVP pick, and he was absolutely playing that way. Entering week 3, he was first in the league in QBR, first in yards per attempt, 4th in first down percentage, 6th in passing touchdowns. And, oh, by the way, they get Le'Veon Bell back yesterday. And as you say, they looked so good early in that game, moving the ball around, Bell playing well. And then Ben goes down and all the air goes out of the sail. So let's start by hearing from our doctor. This is Dr. Mark Addix with his thoughts on Ben Roethlisberger going down and how soon he may get up.
Sprained ligament, MCL, not the ACL,
correct,
which is the one everybody's more familiar with. This is what? Best case? This is still trouble? Help us.
Easily the best case. I mean, He could have had a tibial plateau fracture, which is breaking your shin bone. That would have been a disaster. Could have been a meniscus tear with this MCL tear. That would have been a surgical problem as well. Some MCL tears even require surgery, which would have ended his season. So not having the ACL and not having all those other things happen, this truly was best case.
It's amazing to say 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, and you dodged a bullet, but that's exactly what they did. So all the quarterbacks I mentioned, really the two, it's Ben and Romo, with teams that have real aspirations for more than obviously just the regular season. So let's see how well they can hold their head above water without Ben.
Yeah, you saw what happened yesterday with the Cowboys, who come out fast with Joseph Randle, and then it all gets away from them. We'll work our way over to them. Mike and Mike, we're live again this morning at the Tundra Trio at Lambeau Field from Green Bay. We're brought to you by DraftKings this morning. So, Mike, give me a sense, if you look at those games that Roethlisberger is going to miss, let's just use 6 as a round number.
Yeah.
And, of course, there's no certainty to any of this stuff. And to me right now, Roethlisberger has emerged as good a quarterback as there is in the league. I know Brady is playing at practically a superhuman level. But Roethlisberger, to me, is playing as well as you can play. So this is as big a loss as you could have. And let's just say it for what Michael Vick has been awful the last few years.
Yeah.
Awful. Yesterday, his best pass was one that traveled 1 yard downfield. With the Jets last year, he looked terrible. Now, that was a terrible team that he was on. But this is a significant drop-off as they go to the backup. How many of those 6 games do you think realistically the Steelers can win?
And let me just add in, when you say awful, there's bad play awful, and there's hurting your team awful, which is turnovers. And unfortunately, that's where Vick can go. As I said, you can get that bright light every now and then, but unfortunately there's too many big plays for the other team. Well, you look at your home to Baltimore. Baltimore's obviously struggling, but I actually still think they're a decent team. They're certainly not playing like it right now.
No, they've been in every game. They lost 3 tough games.
At San Diego struggling. They lose again yesterday, this time to Minnesota. Arizona, they're home to Arizona, so they have Arizona to the west coming to the east. But Arizona, we know how well they're playing. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald, anybody that thought he was on the downward turn, just look at the last couple of weeks for that. At Kansas City, we'll see what Kansas City, I do like them as a team. We'll see what they can do tonight here. I think Green Bay wins tonight, but I do think Kansas City's a good team. And then the big one, home to Cincinnati. that's a monster game, the way Dalton and Cincinnati, that team as a whole, has been playing. And then they're home to Oakland. And, you normally you say Oakland, you say win, but Oakland just just put, a couple of wins together, something they're certainly not used to, and they have a young dynamic duo in Carr and Amari Cooper, just another monster game there as well. Pittsburgh's better than most of these teams. You look at the Arizona game and the Cincinnati game and you say those are some really good matchups, but you don't have Ben, so I mean.
They're not better than any of them without Ben Roethlisberger. The point I'm trying to make,
I think they are. I still
who are they better than on that list without Roethlisberger?
I think they're still better than San Diego.
At San Diego, I don't know. San Diego has come east back-to-back weeks. None of those teams tend to play well. Oakland just won a game in the East for the first time since 2009.
You asked me my opinion. I think they're better than San Diego. I think they're better than Oakland. I think the other teams not so much.
I think they're probably better than Oakland, but I'm looking at the first 5 games on that. Yeah. I could easily see them losing all 5 of those games. Baltimore
Possibly.
This Thursday, at San Diego's maybe, then Arizona, at Kansas City, and Cincinnati.
Those are tough.
If they don't have Ben in those games and Michael Vick is their quarterback, I could easily see this could be an injury that they may not be able to recover from. That's the point that I'm making. The season is a long season, but it goes by awfully fast. If they have to find a way to win 2 of these 5 games. You can't lose 4 out of these 5 games in a stretch.
No, you can't.
2-1 right now. If they were to lose 4 out of 5, they would be 3-5 at that point. Now, can you crawl your way back in from that? Yes, but the division will possibly be hopelessly lost by then.
I mean, remember, Baltimore already has a few losses. It's really Cincinnati, the one team you're looking at, and what they do in that time span as well.
Right, but if Cincinnati gets them – right now, the Bengals are playing great. They're playing real well. They're tough wins that they've earned. I think the Steelers have put themselves. They're in a bad spot now because of the worst thing that can happen to you.
Yep.
It happened at Dallas, and now it's happened at Pittsburgh. In this league, you have a great quarterback, you have a huge advantage over half the teams in the league. You lose that quarterback, you've lost that advantage.
Yeah, I still think when they say 4-6, I still think there's going to be the positive part in the clubhouse that says this is the best case scenario. We could have lost him for the season. If it was going to happen, this is the best case we have. We have to keep our head above water for 4 to 6 weeks. I'm certainly not writing them off.
I'm not writing them off either, but I think that it could cost them the division, which I think they were my pick to win. It could cost them beating out Cincinnati in that division. Obviously a long way to go. One more question on this, and then we'll move to other matters. Did you think it was a dirty play? All the talk I saw yesterday was whether or not there should have been a flag thrown. To me, that's inconsequential. What difference does it make if a flag gets thrown or not? You've lost Ben Roethlisberger.
Right.
The interesting question to me is that a dirty play by Mark Barron who hits him in the knee?
No, it's not at all. And I know the new rule says you can't hit the quarterback below the waist, but there are exceptions for that if you're blocked into him like that, or in this case, Barron actually tripped on a blitz. He was coming around, and he tripped over another player, and he went down, and as he was going down, he just crawled forward. I mean, you can't ask a guy if he trips and falls down as he's crawling forward to stop, get up, and then tackle the quarterback. It's ridiculous.
Or not to try and make a play because of where he is. That's the question I'm asking. If you know you're at knee level.
So what? You're trying to make a play. You're not trying to hurt anybody's knee. He hit him more in the ankle and the shin area, and that turned his knee in, and that's what sprained the MCL. So no, absolutely not. Certainly didn't deserve a flag, and I don't think it was a dirty play at all.
To me, those are 2 separate questions. Whether it deserved a flag or not, which I think is the much less important question.
Sure it is. Yeah.
It may, because they penalize you now for things you can't help but do.
But there's reasons that they don't throw a flag when a quarterback gets hit below the waist, and this is one of them. So I think they correctly did not throw the flag.
In fact, I agree with you.
Right.
But what I would go so far as then is to say is, who cares? If they throw a flag, they don't throw a flag.
I agree with that.
The question is it a dirty play?
No.
And I totally agree with you that it was not. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. You can save hundreds on your car, your business, or your recreational vehicle insurance from a local independent agent. Go to Progressive.com today. Now that's Progressive. Next game, let's stay in the state of Pennsylvania, Mike, where the most talked about team in the NFL through 2 weeks was the Philadelphia Eagles, and who would have thought what their offense desperately needed was a trip to New York to play the Jets, who were supposed to be a great defensive team. And at least early, the Eagles offense got healthy in a hurry. Now, as you might imagine, I watched every snap of this game. And I will say this, and I say this not as a sour grapes Jet fan or anything like that. I emerged underwhelmed by the Eagles, to be honest with you. I do not think their offense looks good at all. I do not think Sam Bradford looks good in their offense at all. They ran the ball very effectively with Matthews in the first half, and Darren Sproles continues to be a sensational playmaker. The punt return is a huge play, and he had a couple of other big plays. In the second half, the Eagles did absolutely nothing offensively. And Brandon Marshall of the Jets played about as bad a game as you will ever see a player play.
Gosh.
With one ridiculously boneheaded mistake that in the big picture may well have cost him the game, and then another play where he doesn't even try to make a catch on a ball at a time when the Jets are mounting what easily could have been a comeback. So to me, the Eagles had Darren Sproles on their side yesterday. They had Brandon Marshall on their side yesterday, and I didn't think they had a whole lot more. It's a big win. I'm not saying no. I was not overly impressed at all by Chip Kelly's Eagles yesterday.
Well, I mean, I think because we've seen what Chip Kelly's offense can do at times when it's rolling, and there is a thought that more and more defense are starting to figure it out a little better. You do have a 100-yard rusher in Matthews, 25 for 109. They did gain 123 yards on the ground. They had over 4 yards a carry. But overall, I mean, 231 yards of total offense. The passing game is not there. But they would thought the passing game would open up a little bit if the running game gets going. So the running game definitely was better, and that was considering what we saw DeMarco Murray do behind that offensive line.
Didn't play yesterday, by the way,
right,
for those who didn't see it.
So Ryan Matthews actually was a big play for fantasy. There were a lot of teams that a lot of people thought that maybe we should still stay away from him. But if you gave him a shot, it certainly paid out for you pretty well with what he was able to do. Bradford just not throwing the ball well, 50% completion. He's supposed to be the accurate quarterback. It's just certainly not there right now. I agree with you. I'm not overly impressed with their offense, but, as they're in the building again, the first thing they're going to say is, who cares?
Yeah.
They desperately needed a win. They got to win. I was surprised they ran like they did on your Jet team. And this is one of those classic things where one team's playing bad, another team's playing great. On paper, it looks like there is no way this team, the way they're playing, should be able to beat this team the way they've been playing. And this is exactly what happens at times. Something happens, big punt return, a big thing there, a couple of bad plays, like you said, that you mentioned with Brandon Marshall, and then all of a sudden you're looking at the wrong side of the scoreboard.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's Love 24.
Yep.
The Eagles, however, only had 52 yards of offense in the second half. So their second half yesterday wasn't all that much better than their first half last week. Now, the difference is they had a 24-point lead.
Yes, they did.
Or at halftime it was a 17-point lead. But they actually let the Jets get back into this game, a game the Jets had no business being in. The Jets were awful offensively, awful defensively, awful on special teams, and terrible coaching. I mean, they challenged a play. They had absolutely no chance of winning. So it was a terrible day for the Jets in every way.
Yeah, it was.
We're on a short week and looked it. So, again, to me, if there's one thing that I came out of yesterday believing, and we'll work Atlanta-Dallas into this, Atlanta and Julio Jones, I said it last week, Julio Jones is the best receiver in the NFL right now. They came storming back like a house on fire and beat the Cowboys yesterday. If there's one thing I emerged from yesterday even surer of than I was Friday morning, the Giants are the best team in the NFC East. Now, that wouldn't be the case if Tony Romo and Des Bryant were healthy. But they're not, and if you listen to a lot of people, they'll tell you Bryant isn't going to be himself again all year, and we'll see when Romo gets back. 8 weeks is an awful long time. I think the Giants are the best team in that division.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we'll see. We'll see where they are and the Cowboys are when Romo gets back. And will there be, if the Cowboys are behind the Giants at that point, is there enough time to make it up, depending on the time that he misses? Because certainly when you hear Dez may not be himself until next season, of the two, you want them both back, but you'd rather have Tony Romo back at full strength and ready to go, since he can get the ball out to all the other weapons out there as well. So we'll see on that one. Still, sitting at 2-1. Had that game, and you give Atlanta all the credit in the world. They are playing Devontae Freeman. The kid was ridiculous.
Yep.
5'8". 5'8", 206, and he ran like a guy that weighed about 240, the way he was dropping his shoulder and running physical. It was really, really impressive what they did.
That game and the start of the Falcons season has shown you the difference that a culture change can make.
Right.
With no disrespect to Mike Smith, I always thought he was not a good coach. He did a good job turning around what was a terrible team and got them going in the right direction. But in recent years, that team did not look how different they look. There's not that many different players on that team. They just look like a completely different team, and they didn't pack it in yesterday when they were way behind. Joseph Randle scored 3 touchdowns in that game before he even had a chance to get comfortable in your seat. It looked like the Cowboys were going to blow them out of the building, but the Falcons, not only didn't they fold, but they went in completely the opposite direction. Ryan is playing great. Jones is playing great. You mentioned Freeman, so the Falcons and Panthers both sitting at 3-0. But let's talk about Dallas for a minute, because that's a demoralizing situation to be in. At home, you give up that kind of lead and you lose that kind of game, and everyone is talking about the players that aren't there. Here's Jason Garrett afterwards talking about how they got to play with the ones that they do have.
We had an opportunity today against the Falcons for 3 hours at our stadium. We didn't get the job done. And the guys that were dressed for the game or the guys we're playing with. And at the end of the day, they did a better job winning this game.
I think you're hearing that sort of the mentality you have to have. And they're hurt. It is what it is. You got to go out. You got to play.
You have to move on. You move on quickly from injured people. You have to. I mean, the game is going to happen. Practice is happening the next day. You can't worry about, who's not there for your team. It's going to be Whedon. Whedon was 22 of 26 for 232. I mean, it's not like the thought was, is he going to go out there? Can he hold fast, or is he going to lose you a game? And he certainly wasn't doing anything like that. And they came out of the gate like a house on fire, especially with Randall running the ball. But I'm with you on the change of culture is a big thing. You can talk about X's and O's, and you can talk about execution on the field. But when you talk about a culture change, when you talk about players who all of a sudden not only believe in the team that they have, and we saw how the way the defense has been playing from game one, but believe even when you get down in a game like they showed here that you can come back. That's unbelievable what it does for you mentally and how you come into your building every day preparing for the next game. You have a little more spring in your step. They do anyway just because they're a better team. And then when you come back, this is a great tester when you're down big and you're able to come back in a game like this. This is a huge mental lift for a team that hasn't had it in a while.
Back-to-back weeks. They were down 10 points on the road to the Giants last week in the fourth quarter and came back and won, and they were getting killed yesterday, and they came back and won. Right now, it's obviously much too early for these kinds of conversations. Right now, Dan Quinn is the leader for Coach of the Year in the NFL, and Julio Jones is the leader for MVP.
He's something.
Right now, he is on pace for 181 catches, which would be a record, 2,346 yards, which would be a record, and 21 touchdowns. That's the pace that Julio Jones is on.
The question you want to know there is how many fantasy points is that?
He is on pace for a record fantasy season. We're Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Great guest list today on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. We'll have Tommy Waddle from back in Bristol. We'll have Antonio Freeman, former Packers, going to come over here and say hello to us. Louis Riddick will be with us today, and we will have Mike Tirico and Jon Gruden from Monday Night Football live here on our set in Green Bay. All that and more on the way. But coming up next, we will explain why the man who plays on this field right behind us may very well be staking a genuine claim to being the greatest of all time.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
I see Adam Schefter just tweeted, do you know who the top 3 quarterbacks in completion percentage were last season? Don't bother, I'll tell you.
Well, I bet I'm just gauging because we seem to have a bit of a small epidemic here at some of the quarterbacks that are out.
It's Tony Romo, Drew Brees, and Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah. And all 3 of them right now are down. We'll see how soon any of them can get up. Meanwhile, the quarterback who'll be playing in this building behind us tonight, Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers, I think is genuinely staking a claim to being the greatest of all time. Now, it's much too early in his career to be making statements
and
like
by
that.
the way, he just followed a guy that was pretty good here
Absolutely.
as well.
But if you just look at the direction in which he is trending, it almost feels like he's taking it to another level. And the statistic about, if you want to look at these things that are a trend and then some that are a mortal lock, this number, as I was going through the notes for tonight, just jumped off the page of me, and then we'll get back to yesterday. Give me the numbers on Aaron Rodgers at home.
It's ridiculous. Aaron Rodgers has not thrown an interception in his last 15 regular season home games, so you're talking about week 14 of 2012. 0 interceptions. The next closest quarterback that has played at least 15 home games in that span is Tom Brady, and he's thrown 10 picks.
At home.
10
at home. So the next closest is 10. Rodgers has thrown none.
None.
He is all-time. He's first in completion percentage. He's first in interception percentage. He's first in touchdown to interception ratio, and he's first in passer rating at home. Now, again, he has a decade left, and he will have to continue doing this for a decade. But that's where he's trending. There are a lot of great quarterbacks in the game today. We're going to turn our attention next to one who probably can stake a claim to being the greatest of all time. But that's the direction that Aaron Rodgers is going.
451 regular season pass attempts at Lambeau. That's the longest streak. Obviously, the next would be Brady at 288. Listen, he has everything you need to have right now. It's the greatest quarterbacks are the ones that will kill you from the pocket if they have to. Check. And next, can run a little bit to be dangerous. Check. And, oh, by the way, can avoid the rush enough to make a big play out of the pocket and throw unbelievably well going right or left. check. And to be so accurate, it's ridiculous. He is, in my mind, I know people will maybe still say Brady right now, and you got to give Brady a whole lot of credit. We'll talk about him for what he's doing as well. But in the game right now, you ask me to choose, Aaron Rodgers, the best quarterback in the league.
Let's talk about Tom Brady. As of yesterday, there are 4 quarterbacks in NFL history to throw 400 touchdown passes. Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, Dan Marino, and again, as of yesterday, Tom Brady, who now has 401. And if you watch the Patriots, this is eerily reminiscent of the year after Spygate. Mm-hmm. Remember the year after Spygate? Oh, yeah. They went on a mission. They went 18-0. They were beating people 50-7 and all of that. And my KOD picks, by the way, yesterday, 0-3. So, I couldn't be more right up my own alley with this. I gave you Jacksonville as a guaranteed backdoor cover yesterday because the number just seemed so stunningly low. The Patriots were only a 14-point favorite. Yeah. It just felt like they were begging you to bet the Patriots. So I said, don't do it. And midway through the third quarter, I thought Jacksonville had that backdoor cover ready.
I thought they were going to do it as well. 51-17 later, not so much.
Tom Brady is on a mission. And do not think that Deflategate does not have something to do with this.
Oh,
they're looking to roll. Why is Tom Brady in that game in the fourth quarter yesterday? Because
they don't usually need a lot of motivation to be great and win, but they'll take it. And I thought even if Tom sat for a couple of games, I said that's going to be bad for the rest of the league. Now, he normally comes out and just tries to gun you down anyway, but give him a little extra motivation because we've seen him go chirp in front of some people who have done some talking. So right now he has 1,112 passing yards this season, second highest after the team's first 3 games among players who didn't throw an interception during that time. The only other one, 2013, Peyton Manning threw for 1,143. I just mentioned I take Aaron Rodgers as the best quarterback right now. Well, Tom Brady, as far as all time, he's up high on that rank. He's obviously Aaron's got a long ways to go before we start talking about where he's going to belong all time. Tom Brady gets his due because he's on the back end of his career. He certainly has some time left, but he is already in that conversation.
Well, but here's the one thing you have to say about Tom Brady. He's 38 years old.
Yes.
But he's never played better than he's playing right now. So all these columns that you're reading about, is Brady actually at his best right now, at his peak? Brady, yes, he has a strong arm, but and has always had a strong arm. And Chris Carter, if you were with us last week, was talking about how whatever it is Brady has done, whether he's using more of his body and putting it into the throw, I certainly need someone like Trent Dilfer to break that down. He's throwing the ball as hard as he ever has. But Brady is, right now, he's like Greg Maddux. Those guys can pitch forever.
That's exactly right.
So Brady, you can't play better than Brady is playing right now. So whether he's 28, 38, or 48, he's playing right now as well as he ever has.
I loved your comment yesterday. He's throwing touchdowns to guys you don't even know your name of.
I don't know who he is. Who is 82?
And certainly not helping anybody's fantasy team.
Well, that's the thing.
I'm wanting Gronk the whole time. You're wanting, I think, Edelman.
I did. I had Gronk and Edelman.
Yeah, I had Gronk. I'm like, okay, he's going to throw it to Gronk.
And someone named Keyshawn Martin caught 2 touchdowns yesterday. I've never even heard of him.
It is amazing what he does, how he runs that system. Yeah, the certainly doesn't seem to be a whole lot of, he's had the one issue, obviously, 2011 when he missed all that time when he hurt his knee in the first game of the season. But he's been healthy and he's been running a great offense. And you're right, there's nothing on him right now that shows, as I talked about Peyton, who's probably putting on the 18th hole right now, Tom Brady is not.
No, right now, the best team in the AFC clearly is New England. The best team in the NFC is Arizona. That doesn't mean that's where it's all going to wind up, and I'm sure the Packers tonight could getting booed. Right now, the Cardinals are killing everybody. They're destroying everything in their path. Now, Green Bay just beat up on Seattle last week, and if they go out and shellac them tonight, then, okay, the Packers are the best team in the history of mankind.
There you go. Come on, know where you're at.
Let's move on. I got 2 stats from teams that we mentioned a moment ago. First on the Falcons. The Falcons are the first team in NFL history to start a season 3-0 when trailing all 3 games in the fourth quarter. Again, that's the coach.
I can't tell you and how that permeates to the players and how that makes them feel, because there is a reverse to that. If you're a team that loses at the end, we saw the Giants do it twice, but if you're a team that does it more than a few times in the fourth quarter, you wonder what's going to go wrong. For a team like Atlanta right now, there's no, you don't get despondent. The shoulders don't hunch down. They're like, hey, we've done this before. We know how to come back. It's a great mental builder. I mean, sometimes that's overlooked, the emotion and the mental part of the game.
And then the other stat that I'll give you, Sam Bradford has the lowest QBR of all qualified quarterbacks this season, the lowest at 24.4. And to get back to what I was just saying, and Chip Kelly, you can go out and make a lot of changes, and you can change this running back and that running back. The two big moves he made thus far have been a disaster. Now, It's only 3 weeks, and things can change like crazy. But he trades Shady McCoy for Kiko Alonso. Alonso was hurt. He brings in DeMarco Murray. Murray looked awful when healthy in the system. Now he's hurt, and the guy who they brought in with him, Matthews, looks much better than DeMarco Murray does. And then the big move is he makes this huge splashy trade for a quarterback who looks awful in the offense. First of all, they run that read option. When he hands the ball off, Bradford every single time sprints out like he's running. Not one defender follows him.
No, why would
Not
you?
one jet followed him. So that little part of the offense, which I think is an important piece of the offense, is meaningless with him running it. So someone explained to me that fit.
Well, the only thing I'll say is, you remember when Nick Foles was a quarterback?
Yeah.
It's not like he was a threat to run, and he threw 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
Well, I get
and
it.
They had a running game going. So here's the point. I think Chip Kelly saw that and said, we can do that, but what happens over time is defenses start to figure out offenses a little bit better, and I think we're seeing that more in Philadelphia because it did work with a pocket quarterback who was no threat. Do you think anybody was looking at Nick Foles when he had the ball, was riding in the belly of Shady McCoy? No, absolutely not. But the defenses are now doing a better job of figuring it out, so that has become, kind of null and void. Nobody even worries about that anymore.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Football's back, and it already feels like the playoffs thanks to 1 Week Fantasy at DraftKings.com. With millions of dollars in prizes being paid out each week, every play in every game could take you closer to a life-changing payday. Hurry to DraftKings.com now. Use promo code REPLAY and play for free with your first deposit in this Sunday's $1 million fantasy contest. This isn't fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time. Enter REPLAY for free entry now only at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
Mike and Mike.
Tom Brady is on a mission, and do not think that Deflategate does not have something to do with it.
Oh.
They're looking to roll. Why is Tom Brady in that game in the fourth quarter yesterday? Because. You think they're looking to roll everybody? I mean, I think that there is a cause and effect. We saw it that year after Spygate. Remember, that was the year. Didn't they beat Washington like 51-0
They
or
were
something?
just absolutely rolling people. Absolutely rolling people.
And I think they get mad, and then they go out and they get even. By the way, Tom Brady is on pace for 512 completions this season. That would break the current NFL record. And he has 96 completions this year, most through 3 games of any quarterback in NFL history, thus the pace that he's on. So he's playing his best at the age of 38. Now, that doesn't mean he has 10 more years.
No.
But it might mean he has 3. It might mean he has 3 or 4 more really, really good years. We saw Brett Favre sort of fall off a cliff right around the time he hit 40. Mm-hmm. We're seeing the injuries really finally catch up to Peyton now.
Yeah. And Brett, the way he ran around, he started getting nicked up. That's the thing about Brady. Outside of that knee injury, you're not hearing about him getting nicked up. And when you getting nicked up is one thing, but getting nicked up at 38 years old is another thing, because it takes a whole lot more to come back from that, and it's just not happening to him.
Let me give you 2 more thoughts. Our analytics guys, Ben Alomar, is up early this morning, and he sent me a note after we were talking about the upcoming Steeler games without Roethlisberger. The FPI factors in the loss of Big Ben, so the Football Power Index. The Steelers, according to our Football Power Index, will be underdogs in 3 of their 4 games. Favored to beat only Baltimore. FPI expects the Steelers to win 2 of those 4 games.
Listen, they take that.
Oh, I'd sign for that right now.
Take that in a heartbeat. I think they can. I absolutely think they can. Getting Le'Veon Bell back was absolutely huge, and the key is going to be Vic not turning the ball over. It's one thing to throw an incompletion or just look horrible on a play. It's another thing to turn the ball over and see it go the other way.
See, the thing, though, is that they're not a great defense anymore.
No, they're not.
So you say that about a team that has a great defense, but they're not. They're a high-flying offense.
This is a kind of hold your breath a little bit to see if they can keep their head above water, without question.
Tommy Waddle off the top of the hour with his Subway Fresh Take. Antonio Freeman will be over here. And don't miss Mike Tirico and Jon Gruden together for most of the final hour today. They'll be over here with us for much of the final hour, 9:20 Eastern, 8:20 here in the Central, for about 40 minutes of conversation with our Monday night guys. One more quick thing on the Eagles. We were just talking about it during the break. I thought it was worth mentioning. We talk about how much better would they have been if they had kept Nick Foles than they are with Sam Bradford. Maybe not so much. All that talk about how Chip Kelly was going to mortgage everything to go get Marcus Mariota.
Right.
maybe it would have made sense.
Well,
now again, he take a little seasoning and all that. He started off very well. He would be exactly what it looks like they need in that offense right now.
Yes, the only break I'll put on that is they were doing this successfully with Nick Foles at quarterback. But then I'll continue to say this is what happens in the NFL. When they came in and this offense was like a house on fire, gaining yards everywhere, holding or running plays every 23 seconds, the league was like, wow, and then it takes a little time and then you somewhat figure it out. But they were highly successful with a pocket quarterback in Foles and a running game. But since it has gone to the next level now where it's gotten figured out a bit, again, they did gain over 100 yards rushing, they gained about 4 yards. It was their best rushing outing of the year by far, but the offense didn't look great at all for Philadelphia. Overall, it didn't. First half, certainly it looked much better. So what they want to do now to actually have a read option with the guy with the ball in his hand actually be a threat, I get your point. To whether it's Mariota or somebody who's an actual threat to keep the ball at times, like a Russell Wilson is in Seattle, where he can hurt you just as bad with his legs as with his arm. But they don't have that right now, so that's why I have some concerns about that offense.
By the way, Mariota on pace for 43 passing touchdowns this season. The NFL rookie record is 26. Shared by Peyton Manning and Russell Wilson. SportsCenter with Mike and Mike brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Don't torture yourself with a gross old blade for weeks and weeks, and don't shell out $20 for a pack of new ones. Upgrade to shaving with a fresh blade whenever you want for a fraction of the price by joining DollarShaveClub.com today. That's DollarShaveClub.com. Now, it takes a lot for something from another sport to go viral and have everyone talking during an NFL Sunday. But that happened yesterday. The Washington Nationals, who had a disastrous second half of the season, completely collapsed. It's going to cost everybody their jobs, had a just hideously embarrassing moment in their dugout yesterday. Bryce Harper, who may very well be the National League's most valuable player, doesn't run out of pop fly yesterday. When he's walking back to the dugout, Jonathan Papelbon is wearing him out. The two of them have words, and next thing you know, Jonathan Papelbon's hand is right on the throat of Bryce Harper. They go at it in a big way. They have to be separated. By the way, Papelbon went back out there and pitched in the game after this happened and got lit up, got destroyed, and got booed off the mound. So let's hear from them both. Afterwards, let's hear from Jonathan Papelbon, and then let's hear from Bryce Harper.
I'm in the wrong there. I've got to leave that up to our manager, and there's a lot of competition, and there's a lot of it's a long season, it's a grind, and I can't allow that to happen in the middle of the game. You can handle that after the games, or allow the manager to handle that. So, in that light of it, I'm wrong.
Papelbon said he was wrong. That's the first thing he said. I was wrong. Did he say that to you?
Yeah, he apologized, so, whatever. I really don't care. It's the next 6 days, and, keep doing what I'm doing. It's like brothers fighting.
Listen, these guys all have to be sick, number one, just for the way the season has gone and what the expectations were and where they are right now. Papelbon was right. He's wrong. You can't start that. You can't do it. If you want to give a line to a guy, and say, hey, you got to run that out. If you want to wear him out verbally, then you wait till you get in the clubhouse for that. There are going to be those on the other side that say that Bryce Harper, while a great player, is a hothead with a smart aleck attitude and needs to get put in his place. There are those that feel that way as well. The dugout's not the place for that. You know what? If Papelbon if they wanted to have words and that happened in the clubhouse, so be it. That happens. And that's where it could have stayed in the clubhouse. But you can't do that out in public like that. You can't. So while Papelbon, I wouldn't, if he wanted to say something, you got to run that out, not to really get in the verbal exchange, wait till later for that. But to go after him like that, that's absolutely on him. But certainly you could see it happen. Isn't the first or last time you're going to see some emotion in a dugout, on a sideline, anywhere for a team that had higher expectations. It is absolutely flat out stunk.
The Papelbon acquisition, whether it directly or indirectly was the reason, was a complete disaster for the Nationals, who were the preseason favorite to win everything and have had a year that was just an absolute disgrace.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Yes, it is, and the sun has risen here as we are in the shadow of the mercifully not yet frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Lots of fun with the great fans here in Green Bay. It's so great to come out and see the football fans.
It really is.
The love affair that this nation has with the game of football, and certainly the fans in this town have with their Packers, is fun, and I certainly like the Packers to win tonight against the Chiefs, as I think almost everybody does. Yeah. They're almost unbeatable at home, and Aaron Rodgers, as we mentioned, hasn't thrown an interception in this building in 3 years. We'll do good, bad, and ugly in a second, but very quick note.
Yep.
So I felt like I was allowing myself to get a little bit out of shape. And so I dug out our old DVDs. We used to do P90X all the time.
Yes.
And I just thought I'd start doing it. And I did the ab workout, Ab Ripper X.
Ab Ripper, yeah.
And I have, people here have noticed that I seem very stiff as I'm walking around. I have tremendous pain what is this? At the very top of your legs.
Your hip flexor.
I know I've never asked for this, but would you mind massaging them for me?
Not a chance.
Because I'm in an enormous amount of pain, and I feel that would be the only way I can comfortably get through the remainder of this show.
Two things.
I need you to vigorously massage my hip flexors.
Two things. Number one, you need to learn to stretch, and I'll show you the proper stretch for that. Number two, you make the classic mistake of a weekend warrior who doesn't do something for a while.
Yeah.
That's akin to, I haven't worked my legs in a while. Let me go ahead and do a whole bunch of sets of squats.
Right.
So the next day I'm not walking. So you haven't worked out in a while. You went right to the ab ripper.
Right.
Which is pretty intense.
Might have been a mistake
workout.
on my part, yeah.
Yeah. You should have started with getting up off the couch slowly and worked your way up from there. And you're supposed to call your physician and make sure you're in good enough health to do something like that.
Well,
which obviously you're not.
Can I tell you, my physician was playing golf. All right, Mike, let's do the good, the bad, and the ugly here.
Let's look back at the weekend's highs, lows, and a little something in between. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All right, we've got a good, bad, and ugly, both one each from inside and outside the NFL. We'll do an NFL good, bad, and ugly, and we'll do stuff from outside the league. The good in the NFL has got to be Tom Brady.
Yeah.
What else can you say? The guy is genuinely playing as well as he ever has. So, I see these columns, is Brady in his prime right now? You can't say a man is in his prime when he's 38 years old, but right. He is playing best he's ever played.
I'm not going to go that far. He's not in his prime, but he is playing as well as he's played. This is, remember the season that he had in 2007, 50 touchdowns and about, 20,000 yards or whatever it was. I mean, it was incredible. He's on a better start than that right now. But he joined a pretty exclusive club, and I'm sure it won't be the last one that he joins. He had a couple of touchdown passes, so he now has 401 for his career. He's the fourth player joining, pretty recognizable names in Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, and Dan Marino. So a guy deserved to be in the company of those, and when all is said and done, and that's the fun of trying to rank somebody all time. People already say he wins the award for most accomplished. Does that make him the best of all time? But it's, what's pretty nice? When your name is bantered about in that conversation, which his will be.
Yeah, I actually am just looking up right now the dictionary definition of prime, because here it is. It is the most flourishing stage or state. So he's not in his athletic prime, but let's face it, Tom Brady didn't have an athletic prime.
No,
right?
Go back and see his combine numbers.
If you looked at the combine numbers and watched the video of what he looked like and how he ran, he didn't have an athletic prime like a lot of these guys did. So I think you could argue the most flourishing stage or state. No one's ever played better for 3 weeks than he's playing right now. In his last 16 games, his numbers are ridiculous. So he is playing as well as he ever has and as anyone ever has. So from the NFL, he's the good. From outside the NFL, the good is Jordan Spieth, who just closed off one of the best seasons we've ever seen any golfer not named Tiger Woods have. He won 2 majors. He was right there in the other 2. He was the only one chasing Jason Day at the end of the PGA, and he missed getting into the playoff of the British Open by an inch. He won 5 tournaments, 2 majors, won the Tour Championship, won the FedEx Cup, and wound up winning on the course. This doesn't even count whatever it is he makes in endorsements. Yeah. On the course, he won $22 million.
Just incredible what he's doing right now. And going into this tournament, I think everybody was looking at Jason Day as there were the top 5 players who were ranked the top 5 here. Whichever one won this one outright was going to win the $10 million. Obviously, Spieth was in that. If you were outside of it, you needed a little bit of help. And Day was there early on, but then he had a triple bogey in the first round and never really recovered from that. Spieth's on another age list, and usually the age lists include Tiger Woods. This one does not. At age 22 years, 2 months, Spieth is the youngest player since Horton Smith back in 1929 to win 5 times in the season. So, you want to talk about, we've talked about a lot of different sports and the hands they're in of the young players, and golf is right up there with the rest of them as far as some youth, this guy being, front and center.
Absolutely. And if you were looking for a young, incredibly attractive in every way that matters, American star, which is what we have not had in the world of men's tennis in what feels like forever, Spieth comes along at exactly the right time. When Tiger and Phil are sort of on their way out, Spieth comes riding in, and he's a guy that I think people can really gravitate to, with Day, who is Australian, and McIlroy, who's from Northern Ireland, forming a big three in the world of golf. It couldn't possibly be working out any better. So that's the good. The bad, both from inside and outside the word of the NFL, I just overrided anything that Golic wanted to do and made Brandon Marshall my bad, because that is a stunningly bad play by a veteran player in a critical moment. And again, people are acting like, well, they're desperate. There was 5 minutes left in the second quarter of an NFL game yesterday. They're down 17-0. It wasn't 35-0. The game really wasn't out of reach until he did this. So that's not just your run-of-the-mill bad play. I think it's actually being undersold just how big of a blunder that it was.
Are you going to need to get to your weekly therapist before you can move past this?
Listen, I mean, am I overstating?
Yes, you are. I mean, you're overstating it like you overstate most. Yes, it was a bad play. It didn't. There are 5 to 6 plays a game that can cost you. This was one of them. After this play, the Jets had a chance to get back in this game and still win it. So they had chances. Did this hurt? Yes. Is it the worst place known to mankind? No, it's not. But it was a bad play. I will give it to you that it could be in the bad here, but I'm not going to use all the wonderful adjectives that you use for it.
Well, because you're not quite as, you're a tad challenged when it comes to vocabulary.
That's true. I grant you that.
But to me, that was clearly the NFL's bad yesterday. From outside the world of the NFL, let's look at Oregon and Auburn as 2 teams for the bad, because those were 2 teams I think a lot of people had in their Final Four, and they went into a weekend where they could not afford a loss, and they both suffered them, and bad ones. Auburn doesn't score a touchdown. Oregon gets blown off the field. There will be 4 teams that play for the championship this year, and neither one of those will be among them.
Mississippi State 17-9 over Auburn, failed to score a touchdown for the first time under Gus Malzahn. 0-2 in SEC for the SEC play for the second time in 4 seasons. Utah just destroys Oregon, 62-20. You want to talk about the most points allowed by Oregon since losing 63-zip at Nebraska in 1985. You want to talk about the difference of a quarterback. We saw what Marcus Mariota helped Oregon do. Vernon Adams, I know he had hurt that finger early on, went into the second game with that. In this one, he was just 2 of 7 for 26 yards, got replaced in the game. So what a difference a quarter, especially in that system, the trigger man that Mariota could do so much. Boy, with this team, this is usually, it's the reverse. Oregon's usually doing this to these teams. And Oregon and Auburn, you are out.
Hey, it was a crazy weekend, by the way, in the Pac-12 where all the road teams won.
Well, plus, I was looking for some better games. You had UCLA going to Arizona, and I thought, what the Scooby Wright's back on the field for Arizona? That's a blowout. You got USC going to Arizona State. USC coming off the Stanford loss. Huge week for them, and they really took care of business against Arizona State.
And the one thing about that conference, no one talks about Utah, right? I mean, all these teams we talk about, do we have to start paying attention to Utah in the Pac-12? I mean, that's a real question. Remember, I forget what magazine it was that did a piece before the season started and said, well, Michigan gets a cupcake game to start against Utah, who had beaten them the year before and beat them again this year.
Right.
Harbaugh's got Michigan playing really well right now. Maybe we should be paying attention to Utah
in
the Pac-12.
And you know what? They'll get their chance to show what they can do. They're 18. They're obviously going to move up from there, and we'll see where they go.
It's Mike and Mike's good, bad, and ugly from the weekend in sports. Our ugly in the NFL will be the injury to Ben Roethlisberger. That's one of those where we were in that room yesterday with the Monday Night Football crew watching the games, and I'm always, it's one thing for fans to say it, but when I hear guys like you and others who played the game, when you see that play, I hear that sound that you make. You know exactly when something really disturbing has happened, and that's the sound that we heard when Roethlisberger goes down. Now, Jeremy Fowler covers the Steelers for us at NFL Nation, offered these thoughts on where Pittsburgh goes from here, however long it is they are without Ben.
It looks like a smart signing that the Steelers picked this guy up, because otherwise they would be in a lot of trouble right now. This is a functional quarterback that has a ton of weapons around him, so that will help. we cannot say that this offense is going to be nearly as good without Ben Roethlisberger, but they can still win games with Michael Vick. There might be a day where they sort of mourn the loss of Big Ben, but they have to be optimistic, hoping that he comes back at a minimum of 4 weeks. And if that's the case, then they'll still be getting a ton of guys back. Martavis Bryant, talented receiver, comes back in 2 weeks. Marquise Pouncey can come back in the mid-season mark. If they can kind of fizzle in Ben at that point as well, then you're in a great spot to still make a playoff run.
Listen, that's looking at the glass half full, and I get it. You want to look at it that way a little bit. You're definitely going to mourn the loss when Ben's gone from like right when the hit happened. Start mourning right away if he has to miss any time. And I understand about the players that are coming back. I do get all that, but you're playing without Ben, and I do disagree with I think they're going to be all right with Michael Vick. Michael Vick turns the ball over. Anything you want right now is the safest quarterback in the world. Throw the ball to Brown, throw the ball to the tight end, give the ball to Le'Veon Bell, throw the ball to Le'Veon Bell as a tight end, Heath Miller, throw it to him, and don't turn the ball over. Michael Vick turns the ball over. That's my biggest fear. Is he still, I don't care how old you get, when you have legs that you can move on, you trust your legs to get you out of trouble, and then you try and make a play, and the next thing you know, the ball's on the ground or the ball's in the hands of somebody on the other team, and it's a bad play. That's my biggest. I do think they can survive this. I absolutely do. But if Michael Vick becomes a turnover machine, they're in a lot of trouble.
I agree with you. I agree with the second half of what Jeremy said, which is they're going to get the cavalry coming back in a big way.
Yep.
And if Roethlisberger only misses 4 or 5 games, then there is ample time to get it back. I strongly disagree with the notion that Michael Vick is what he described him as. Michael Vick has not been that in the last 2 or 3 years. I have great respect for what Michael Vick has accomplished as a player during his career. He's not that player anymore. That's why nobody signed him. When everyone is out there finding backup quarterbacks, Michael Vick was on the street until right near the end of the summer, and there's a reason for that. I could give you a list of probably 10 backup quarterbacks that I think would be better suited to step in there and keep the ship afloat for Pittsburgh right now than Vick is.
I agree, because you know what you can't say to Michael Vick when you're in that quarterback meeting, and then I feel, hey, Michael, play it safe. He doesn't know how. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, and in his prime, it certainly worked well for him. And as I said now, you're going to see plays, you're going to go, wow, what a great play. But unfortunately with Michael, you go, wow, I can't believe he hangs the ball out there like that, or I can't believe he threw that. What was he looking at? You get those plays as well. He is not going to change the way he plays. So this is what you have. So you may see some exciting plays, but you may see some plays that you're going to cringe on. And I think this is a point when you need about the safest quarterback in the world to use the other weapons around you.
We're doing the ugly here. How about the ugly matchup Thursday night? Before the season starts, you figure, okay, that Thursday night game, you got Steelers-Ravens, one of the best rivalries in the sport. Now all of a sudden the Ravens are 0-3 and the Steelers are without Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
So that's not quite the game that it looked like about a month ago on the schedule. So that's our good, bad, and ugly from inside the NFL. Outside the NFL, the ugly moment, clearly the Washington Nationals, who found the perfect ending to their season.
Boy, you're right about that.
Right? You couldn't have possibly encapsulated the embarrassment that was their season any better than Jonathan Papelbon and Bryce Harper did yesterday. We showed it to you earlier, and you heard earlier here on Mike and Mike from Papelbon saying, that's on me, I shouldn't have done that. Harper saying, let's move past it, it's like brothers fighting. I was interested in Matt Williams. He took a variety, like a flurry of questions about it and was doing his best to diffuse it. A lot of people were surprised that after this happened, Williams still sends Papelbon out to pitch in the game. And, oh, by the way, he got lit up and got booed off the mound. But here was Matt Williams after the game with his explanations.
This is a family issue, and we'll deal with it that way. There was an altercation in the dugout, and we'll leave it at that.
Well, listen, I think that's how I would answer it. This is on Papelbon. From the on-field, the trade for him obviously was horrific. You want to talk about something not working. Mm-hmm. This team tinkering to what they had, to the run that they were supposed to make with it, and at times maybe a little over-tinkering, like in this case. So from on the field, that didn't work. And then obviously, you have the kind of personality he has, as well as Bryce Harper, who many people, it's however you look at it. wow, look at this gritty, get after it guy. Some will say about Bryce Harper. Others, wow, look at this young punk who happens to be a great baseball player. I mean, it goes from both sides there.
Well, one of the things that Dan Dockich, if you follow Dan on Twitter, he's nutty, but he's interesting.
Yes.
And he was completely on Papelbon's side in this. And one of the points he was making, and I'd love to get your take on this, is just one. He's not a baseball player, of course, but he's just been through the team thing. Was that if Bryce Harper was a guy that had sort of universal respect in that clubhouse, that Papelbon would never have done that. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that? That the fact that Papelbon did that he was chirping at Harper the way he did was an indication that Harper does not have universal respect in that clubhouse.
I don't think it's any going out of bounds to say that he is looked at as kind of a, rough around the edges, kind of this young
punk. Is that the word you want to use?
That's what a lot of people use. But he's a great player. And here's the thing. And I disagree with Dan that this wasn't a good thing to do by Papelbon. There's not a chance.
He didn't say it was a good thing. I don't want to mess that up.
All right.
But he sort of put a lot of this on Harper.
No, this is on
this happened.
This
thing.
Actual thing that happened is on Papelbon. You can't do this publicly. You can't. You want to go beat his behind in the clubhouse? Go ahead. Get in his face, chirp at him, grab him how you want. If there's a fight, so be it. There's a fight. It happens. It happens. But that needed to happen in the clubhouse. So Papelbon was absolutely wrong for that. As far as Bryce, anybody thinking maybe Bryce needed to be put in his place by someone like that? Seriously, Bryce Harper's not been in the league long. He's going to be your NL MVP this year. You may not like his attitude, but he is a great player. Do you really think that's going to change? Do you really think anybody thinks what Papelbon did is now going to make Bryce Harper sit back and go, maybe I've been going about things all wrong?
Well,
it's Jonathan Papelbon. Papelbon's going to do this to you. He's going to make the one that make you aware of this. You can be frustrated with the guy. I get it. But then again, handle it in the clubhouse. But I don't think this is going to be something where Bryce Harper this is a learning moment for him, because he's going to be playing a lot longer than Papelbon and getting a hell of a lot more of awards than Papelbon's getting. He is. And this is the style that he plays. You may not like it. Some like it more than others. But I don't think this was any kind of a learning lesson that we're saying, Jonathan Papelbon did the right thing and taught that kid a lesson. I don't blame Papelbon. Again, I would have done it in the clubhouse, because what you get is frustrated. You see a guy with a ton of talent. That's what you see. You see a guy with a ton of talent, and you're like, come on, dude, this is not the way we play the game. You run this out. Remember back in the day with Griffey, put your cap on the right way.
Right.
You're nonchalant about the game. So you get criticized. The way Puig was playing with the Dodgers.
Right.
Getting criticized for his style of play, and I'm not going to change. These are the younger guys. You don't hear anything about Mike Trout except he plays the game the right way. But not everybody is going to be, in a box and play it the right way. So how do you deal with it? Do you make everybody say you're not playing the game in the right way? You have to start playing it our way. Bryce Harper's like, dudes, you know what? This is the way I play. This is my mentality. Now, will it change with age? Comes a little wisdom. I'm sure it will. But right now, this is where he's at. So while you may want to blame them both for this, Papelbon, without question, is at fault for the public display of this. But as far as not running plays out and playing the game how it should be played, maybe somebody, and Papelbon did get in Bryce Harper's face, basically saying, dude, you're a great player. Play the game the right way.
Right. That part of it I actually agree with. And Matt Williams was a hard-nosed, play the right way guy. And why he puts up with that from Harper goes to show you that you will give star treatment to star players. Harper's an unbelievable player. And I don't mind the attitude. I don't mind the brashness. I don't mind the personality. You know me. I think that we need more of that in baseball, not less. But run to first base. This is not that complicated. When you hit the ball, run to first base. It's 90 feet. Run there. You're the MVP of the league. You're a great player. Run to first base. They might drop the ball. You teach that to kids when they're 5.
Yeah, you do.
He should run to first base now.
I'm with you.
Should it be Papelbon saying that to him in that spot? Maybe. Papelbon's won World Series. He's been around. He's been there. And maybe he's sick to death of seeing Matt Williams kissing Bryce Harper's behind when Harper's not running to first base. So is Papelbon in the wrong? Yes. Should Harper be running to first base?
Yeah.
He absolutely should.
Does there still need a message to be sent? Well, you could absolutely agree that a message still needs to be sent, but this certainly wasn't
the wrong way to do it.
And it was also, to cap what was an unbelievably frustrating season.
The good, the bad, and the ugly with Mike and Mike, our fall football tour live from Green Bay, brought to you by Goodyear. Also, if you want to see behind-the-scenes views of our trip here to Green Bay, you can follow us on Instagram and on Snapchat. We're at ESPN Mike and Mike for exclusive access that you don't even get on TV. That's at ESPN Mike and Mike, both on Instagram and on Snapchat.
The best of Mike and Mike.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt. Frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
Mike and Mike.
Let's bring Louis Riddick into the conversation, our front office insider. He's back in the spacious studios in Bristol and joins us today. Good morning, Louis.
How you doing, guys?
Good. We're doing well. Golic doesn't remember any of the really good players he played against. But that's neither here nor there. Okay.
A long time ago.
A million directions I want to go with you. Let's start with Roethlisberger. Take us inside the Steelers meeting rooms and all that kind of stuff. Big Ben is down. He's going to get up. We've got Michael Vick. Give us the mentality.
Yeah, I think right now, especially when you're talking about a short week, I think the mentality is just making sure that you have enough in the playbook that you are still able to be as multiple as you want to be with Michael playing in the game. And at the same time, you don't want to overload him because you want him to play fast. You don't want him getting out there and being blocked up mentally in his mind so he can't really execute the offense. That's always the challenge. How do you strike that balance? And you're just trying to communicate to him as a coaching staff and as an organization, look, we got a lot of good players here. We got probably the best wide receiver in the league and the best pass and run catch threat in the league at running back in Le'Veon Bell, and D'Angelo Williams is no slouch, as he's already proven. So let's just try and, stay within ourselves, give them enough that you can compete and still win games and hold down the fort until Ben comes back.
The only problem with that, Louis, I have to say, is this guy's been playing in the league what seems like for 30 years. So I don't see him changing. I don't see coaches being able to now mold his game to, quote-unquote, play it safe.
Yeah.
So while I think you're going to see some good plays out of him, we know what other types of plays we see with him. So I guess I'll go all the way back to them signing Michael Vick. Is that a guy that you think you would trust as a backup, knowing his propensity to turn the ball over?
Yeah, and Mike, I know it pretty well from my time in Philly. I was there when we signed him and was there for him a number of years, and from 2010 to 2012, he had the ball knocked off of him 32 times as far as fumbles are concerned, through 30 interceptions and 35 starts. So, and he got beat up pretty bad because Michael plays that type of style. So I definitely see what your concern is there. And that's something they're just going to have to try and force it into him, into his mind that, hey, look, the old Michael Vick, we don't necessarily need. We don't need you to make things happen. We've got enough people who can make things happen. And you really got to buy into the fact that we've got a pretty good football team here. We just need you to not lose the game. Don't give it to the other team. That's one of the worst things as a backup quarterback you can do, is give it to the other team, especially when you got enough guys on your own team that can put up points and rack up points on the scoreboard. So it's tough, but he's going to have to somehow adjust his game so he doesn't put the rest of the team in jeopardy.
Much of the conversation I've heard, frankly, about Vick since this injury suggests to me that people haven't seen him play the last 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
Because the Michael Vick that has been on the field the last 2 or 3 years, Louis, is not the Michael Vick that we remember. And I'm not even talking about whatever he's lost in athleticism. But as you just pointed out, he just doesn't. He doesn't look like the same guy. I think we could tick off 10 or 12 backups that right now I think you would rather plug in there and say they'll just keep the ship afloat than a guy like Vick will.
Yeah, I think Mike is a victim of his own standard that he set from early in his career as far as being just a very explosive, multiple type of playmaker. And he's not. He really, really ideally, Michael really isn't a backup quarterback in the sense that he's wired to be a starter. He's wired to be the guy who's always getting the reps, who's always in the flow of the season and of the offense. He's not a guy who I think really does well in a backup role when he's not the primary guy. So it'll be interesting here to see how Mike Tomlin and those guys really get him dialed in now, being that he's not that familiar with this offense and what his history has been. So it's a challenge for him for sure, but look, this is the route that they chose. So he's just going to have to, again, allow the people that they already have on that team to do their thing. Because he doesn't need to mess it up. He doesn't need to be the old Michael, even if he could be, which, as you're saying, he probably can't be anyway.
Mike and Mike Louis Riddick, I want to run around a couple of different places with you. What in the world happened to the Dolphins yesterday?
Yeah, that's a team that's really, this right now is kind of in a fog. And, I heard you guys talking about it, about on defense in particular here, and this issue with Sue, and we talked about this yesterday on Insiders, and it's the fact that when you bring in guys like Sue in particular, who's getting a lot of scrutiny right now, you buy free agents knowing that they are really a known commodity, and you have to replicate the type of environment and scheme that you saw them be successful in, and they're not doing that for Sue down there right now. And he looks like a guy who's disheartened, who's disinterested, who isn't playing as ferocious and as nasty as he was before, because that's what they wanted. That's what you give $60 million to. You don't give it to the guy who you're seeing on the field right now, who somehow has just lost his mojo. And then offensively, the offensive line is still in shambles. Brandon Albert not being on that offensive line makes a total difference. And Ryan Tannehill is feeling the effects of that, and they just haven't been able to get that offense going the way Bill Lazor had hoped to get it going.
Is there an overall effect on Sue? And it's certainly 3 games in only now that as a team, he has none. As a team, they only have 1 sack. And sometimes what he does won't always show up in the box score. But we have a few $100 million deals out to defensive players. You go back to Albert Hainsworth, that certainly didn't work out. Mario Williams was close to that. Obviously, Marcel Darius got that. J.J. Watt right in that area. If it doesn't work out with one of these guys like a Sue, does that hamper the next defensive guy that tries to get a big deal, or because guys have gotten it is basically the horse out of the barn and it's not going to have any effect?
Yeah, Mike. I think, when free agency rolls around every year, everyone knows how you can mess up in free agency. And really with a guy like Sue, it's about, again, don't ask him to do stuff that he's not used to doing, especially when you're talking about a veteran who has made his name in the way he's made his name. We did it in Philadelphia when we signed Nnamdi Asomugha and asked him to do things that he had never really done at the Raiders and made his name on. And we were wondering why the heck he busted out and really wasn't a guy that we expected him to be. I don't think this will hurt, because once free agency rolls around again, there will always be owners who are going to have the cash flow and have the cap space and say, we only need maybe one of those and go shopping, and they will always pay. They just will. Even though you know what the dangers are of free agency, there will always be teams that are going to pay.
Mike and Mike Louis Riddick is with us. Is Tom Brady right now playing better than he has at any previous time in his career?
Yeah, it sure does look it. And, you're talking about really arguably probably the greatest quarterback of all time when it's all said and done. But, he's just like an assassin right now. Everything is clicking. He's in a system that he's been in his entire career that he knows inside and out. And it just doesn't matter who he moves in there, as long as, like right now, as long as he's got Gronk moving and going and Edelman going and Amendola going, then he can bring in guys like Keshawn Martin, who you didn't even know yesterday, and throw touchdowns to him. Bring in Deion Lewis, who hasn't played football in a couple of years. That's all attributed to Tom's familiarity with that offense, how much of a general he is in that offense. And right now, as you guys have mentioned, the league is in trouble, man, because he has a point to prove, and that's just, you know how that is. It's dangerous when you're motivated like that to prove people wrong, and that's been his whole career. His whole career. So now he's got it again. He's got that thing that he wants to prove to everybody, so look out.
Yeah, he's taking the air out of the opponents as this season goes on. He's Louis Riddick. We'll see him back in Bristol this week. Thanks, Louis.
Thanks, Louis. All righty.
Mike and Mike.
Jon Gruden and Mike Tirico from Monday Night Football. Say hi, everybody, if you would.
Good morning.
Fans are out early and excited. John, I assume we're happy with that choice.
I know Brian Johnson personally, so that guy has fired me up for years and years.
I bet you've had a few pictures made with him.
Yes, I have.
Well. Yes, you have. A little Back in Black has good stuff right there. We've all recovered finally from week run in the Joe Cocker week. So
don't ever do that again.
Now, you guys know, before you get going on regular stuff with John used to work here. Back in the day, he was part of that great staff.
These are my friends here. A lot of these people.
Tell them about the staff that you were on here in Green Bay. It was one of the great staffs, really, when you look at them in terms of turning out NFL coaches.
Well, Mike Holmgren hired a bunch of young guys, Steve Mariucci, Andy Reid, myself, and we had some good coaches on defense that went on to be head coaches, Ray Rhodes, Dick Duran, and we had a young quarterback to develop at that time, made things real exciting in Brett Favre, and we got a lot of help from these Packer fans, too, I'll tell you that.
Well, John has told us great stories about how competitive he and Reed were when they were suggesting plays to Holmgren, and it was a big deal which ones he would choose. And then we had Mike Holmgren on, John. I don't know if you heard. We had Mike Holmgren on about 2-3 weeks ago, and I brought that up, and he really talked at great length about that, about the creativity of that group, and you and Andy Reid in particular, and all of that. So we'll see Andy Reid tonight. Actually, a good segue. Let's start with that tonight. Reed's team off of an absolute heartbreaker of a loss a week ago Thursday. What a terrible way to lose a game, and now they have a long break to come in here and play against Rodgers in a building where he simply does not throw interceptions. Give us a quick look ahead to tonight's Monday night game.
Well, easily, they got to take better care of the ball. They turned it over 5 times. They've got to get their third down offense going. They're just 3 for 20 in the first 2 games, but they have a great defense. If they can stay together without Sean Smith, their right corner, Sean Smith, is killing them on defense right now. Other than that, this is a talented team. They've got to pass protect a little bit better. They do get Eric Fisher back at right tackle. It'll be a tight ball game, I do believe.
You mentioned Sean Smith. He's the corner suspended for 3 games, and you saw Peyton Manning go right after the guy who was replacing him in the 3-corner looks, Janelle Fleming, number 30. So we'll see if Rodgers looks to do that. Then on the other side, the tackles for Green Bay are going to have their hands full tonight with Kansas City.
On the outside rushing.
Yeah, Brian Balaga's out at right tackle, so Don Barclay has started there. And he's got to go up against the premier pass rusher in football in Justin Houston. And Tom Bahali against Bakhtiari on the other side is a problem as well. But they're going up against a special guy in Aaron Rodgers. He just figures it out at home. His statistics at home, you got to do the math on this, Mike. It's unbelievable.
Well, it's incredible. We had the stat. We can get it for you amongst this mounds of paper that we have. 458 passes, I believe, is the streak of passes at home.
And the time that he has not thrown an interception at home, in that same stretch of time, the quarterback who has thrown the fewest home interceptions is Tom Brady with 10.
Right.
So it goes from Brady at 10 to Rodgers with 0.
With 0, yeah.
Let me ask you this, though, Mike, because you were meeting with the Chiefs yesterday. We were together watching some games, and you went to meet with them. When we had Andy Reid on before the season, he told us to expect to see them open that offense up a little bit more with Macklin, and they have not done it. They don't throw the ball 5 yards down the field, more about 10. What are they saying about the possibility of opening it up a little bit?
Well, Rodgers, they're not throwing the ball downfield either. That's the funny part of this whole thing. To why it's just the way football has gone right now in large regards. They want to get Macklin going a little bit more, and they're going to need to. So they have to develop, John, we talked about this, another receiver. Jamal Charles, great pass receiver. Travis Kelce, for their positions. Kelce's doing a lot of the receiver work. They need to do something, and the offensive line being there to protect him a little bit better, I think could help. So you'd like to see Alex throw the ball downfield. He doesn't turn it over. He takes care of it. He's smart, does all the things you want. But to be that dynamic team, you want to be able to do that. The game last night, what happened? Peyton went deep before the end of the half. That changes the whole tenor of the game. Just do it once or twice. If a guy can make a play for you, different game.
I love the first couple of games. All of a sudden, Peyton Manning can't throw outside the numbers. And last night, he throws outside the numbers. And it's incredible. Whenever you get somebody who says they're done doing that, all of a sudden they do it again. Not the first time you sat with a team that's going to talk about how you defend Aaron Rodgers. But just like Mike Tyson would say, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. So I know you make a plan to contain Aaron Rodgers. What is the plan? What do you do? He's in my opinion, the best quarterback in the league. So when you're getting ready to play a guy like that, what's the plan?
I think it all starts with not jumping off sides. I mean, you have got to stay on sides. As much as you want to get after him and sack him and disrupt him, he'll kill you if you jump off sides with these free plays. They've got to contain him in the pocket. But I think where Kansas City has a chance is with their inside rushers. Tom Bahali, Houston get all the credit, but Don Terry Poe's healthy again. Yeah. They have Allen Bailey playing inside. Jay Howard has played well. They've got to rush 5, contain him, get after him, bat some balls down. But it's going to be a relentless effort by a lot of guys tonight for 60 minutes.
Best matchup of the week. When you talk about quality team against quality team, this is the best one of the week. So
Chiefs and Packers tonight, Monday Night Football, 8:30 Eastern on ESPN.
Real quick, for either one of you, at some point do you have to say, look to the upstairs of Kansas City and say, maybe, they haven't done well in the receiver range? I mean, to say in bringing people in, okay, we haven't had a receiving touchdown. They should have that.
Well, they brought in Macklin, Mike. I mean, he should be that difference maker.
No, I'm talking this year. It's been they haven't had a great wide receiver for a bit.
Hey, talk about bringing your own people through your organization. Last Chiefs drafted quarterback to win a game.
Yeah.
You know what it is?
I've seen the stat.
He works with us. He's on our
Todd Blackledge.
Todd Blackledge is the last Chiefs drafted quarterback to win a game. I think it's September 12, 1987.
I thought you were going to say Len Dawson for a second. I was going to lose my mind. All right, Gruden and Tirico are here. Let's go around the league a little bit. Jon, the Steelers have very little time to feel sorry for themselves losing Roethlisberger because they play Thursday night against Baltimore. But Roethlisberger is having an MVP caliber season. He has become such a dynamic offensive player. Now they go to Michael Vick to hold down the fort 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is. What is your expectation of what they can do offensively in the absence of Ben?
I think they're in a tough spot because they lost Bruce Gradkowski, their backup quarterback, in the preseason. Michael Vick didn't go to training camp with Pittsburgh, didn't have an off season. So I think they're going to go to Vick, look at his body of work, where he is in his career, do some things that he's comfortable with. It'll impact the fantasy stats of Antonio Brown probably, but they've got Le'Veon Bell. They've got a great running game. They're playing much better defense.
Good tight end.
Very good tight end. They just need to hold down the fort, find a way to win a couple games while Roethlisberger gets well.
I don't, and I've heard already a couple of people say, well, you'll just talk to Vic and make him manage the game differently. And my thought is, this guy's been playing for what seems 30 years. Are all of a sudden we're going to make him be able to manage things? He's a guy, when things break down, he trusts his leg more than anything else. So he gets out and he starts running around, and that's when you say, oh, my God, what a great player. Oh, my God, why did he do that? I don't think you can, John, you as a coach, can you tell him to calm down and not do that? I don't see how you can do that.
I don't think so either. I think he sees the game at the quarterback position differently than most of us see it. You got to cut him loose, let him play. Now, you got to talk to him about being smart. At the same time, he's adapted to Dan Reeves. He's played for Andy Reid, Chip Kelly. Here he is with Todd Haley and Mike Tomlin. He's going to be able to handle it. He's proven that in the past.
It's not like Ben doesn't do things out of the pocket. I mean, what's Ben's great strength? Keeping plays alive. So you're not going drastically 180 degrees. But to your point, and this is stop whatever now for Michael Vick. Here's a chance to just kind of hold the fort and help save a season here a little bit. Does that appeal to him? Because, as you said, Greeny, earlier, Michael Vick was out there. He was not in somebody's camp. Would you like to hook on for 2, 3, 4 years with somebody? You have a chance here for a month to prove you can.
Mike and Mike, I was about to say Tom Brady. Mike Tirico and Jon Gruden are with us. Tom Brady, I actually looked up the dictionary definition of prime earlier this morning because while he is obvious at the age of 38, no one could say he's in his athletic prime. But Mike, he never really had an athletic prime. I mean, those of us who've seen the video of him at the Combine, he's playing right now better than he's ever played at the age of 38. So the notion that he's approaching the end, while it would stand to reason, really doesn't make sense when you watch him play.
A year apart, Peyton Manning, we're talking about it's getting closer to the end. Brady, we're not having that conversation. Because, you look up every time we were in the room watching the game, oh, there's another touchdown. Yeah. Brady throws, who's that? Where'd they get that guy from? Oh, he hasn't played in 8 years. Yeah. Oh, sure, come to New England. You'll catch 40 balls and a few touchdowns. It is incredible. And, John, we always talk about with Aaron Rodgers and Brady, no disrespect to the other guys, but those are the guys who have the total command and the physical ability with that mental command to do everything on the field right now.
And Brady thrives with the chip on his shoulder. You know, being a 6th-round draft choice, we've heard that story for years. The off-season that he had, fighting with the league, fighting to get back on the field, you get the feeling that's just what he needed, to get that chip back on his shoulder and prove that, you know what, I'm going to show you anyways. Even throughout all the distraction, I'm going to shred everybody on our schedule. Aaron Rodgers is very similar. He still plays with a chip on his shoulder. I'm sure he wants to get after Alex Smith and the Chiefs tonight because he wasn't the number 1 overall pick.
It's a good point, those two guys in that same draft. If you think about it, you're right with Brady, Mike. He's coming off winning the Super Bowl, and yet he comes back with a chip on his shoulder. I mean, it really is an interesting dynamic.
Listen, I've always said he rarely needs motivation, but if it's provided for him, he'll take advantage of it. We've seen him run down the field chirping at a player who spoke up during the week, and I had said it all along. If he was going to sit for a couple of games, that he would just come back with a vengeance and say, okay, all right, that's cool. You sat me, now see what happens.
The greats always find something to push them to be even greater. And Peyton Manning, if you watched Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth last night, relating the conversation from the night before, the production meeting with Peyton Manning, his little chip right now is people said, you can't throw the ball there, you can't throw it deep. So he's finding that motivation. Brady picked 199. Aaron Rodgers passed over by 23 teams. That's the joy in this. That's what pushes these guys just that extra little bit.
Tirico and Gruden are here with us. You were making an observation, Mike. Again, we sat and watched a lot of football together yesterday and then watching the Sunday night game, just about the state of the game right now.
My alarm went off this morning on my iPhone, and it was Jeff Triplett saying, the call has been reversed, the call has been changed. 4 times last night they changed calls. And my friend here is not the world champion in patience. Right. John does not thrive on coaches' challenges or replays. You got to me last night. I'm with you now. I've had it. The flow of the game is horrific. That game was so bad and choppy last night. The number of penalties, it has to be an all-time high in the league for the first 3 weeks.
It is.
Number of flags thrown, replay challenges, and the flow and tempo of a game, it's just terrible right now. And we're looking at the smallest things, and I don't know how to fix it, because if we see it on TV that it's wrong, we need to get it right. It's happening too bang for these guys to do, but I think you won me over here, Coach.
Why is it happening, John? Why is it so? Is it because of the new CBA with the less practice and the less work? That would seem logically to make sense. Do you think that the sport right now is just not of the same caliber that it was, say, 10 years ago?
I think when you work so hard to make every call right, you're looking and looking and looking for every call that exists. I used to yell at officials for not throwing a flag. You missed the holding call, Golic. Yeah. Now I'm yelling at you for throwing your flag. Quit throwing a flag, Mike. It's over legislation. I think it's part of the American way now. You know what I mean? There's a lot of laws. If you sign a contract, you got to sign 46 things. And that's how it is in the NFL officiating world right now. It's unbelievable. All the penalties.
It's 3 words.
3 weeks.
It's 3 words. Point of emphasis. Point of emphasis. That's all we hear. Point of emphasis. So the players are supposed to learn to not touch after 5 yards or have that offhand on that usually you can get away with it. We're watching, we're sitting in the room with Jerry yesterday. Jerry Austin, I'm sorry. And there's a play where a defender has a hand in the face, but it's nowhere near the play, and it's right at the end of the game. And Jerry turns to me and said, that doesn't fit the M&M rules. And I thought, something for our show? And he's like, no. In that point of the game, it better be murder or mayhem for you to call it. And they called it, and they shouldn't call it.
It was a Jet game, by the way, and it ended the game. But thanks for bringing that up.
But the point goes together hand in hand. The officials try to keep their job. They're told this is how you're supposed to do your job. Right. They get graded, and they want to be right, so they continue to get employed. Mm-hmm. Best officials work the biggest games. So I'm all for that. The big problem is the players are also committing too many fouls. Maybe the CBA and all of that work hand in hand why this is getting chopped.
All right, 2 more things I want to get in before I let you guys go. Jon Gruden, you are the coach of, pick either team, the winning team or the losing team, in a game that ends 55-52, which we saw in the Big 12 Texas. The other night.
Yes.
And I run to Golic. Golic and I flew here separately. He came from Hartford. I came from New York. We then met in Detroit. And the first thing I say to him was, TCU Texas Tech last night was the best game of the year. And he spent the entire flight here yelling at me. Now, I was endlessly entertained by this game. What did you think of it? And what do you, from a coaching standpoint, are they even playing defense in the Big 12?
I don't have to talk about officiating.
No officiating.
Okay. No. It's that conference. It's that style of football that exists in that league. You watch Baylor, you watch TCU, Texas Tech. It's Mike Leach, I think. He was one of the godfathers of this style of football. It's not for me, but it is exciting. It is entertaining. There's a lot of skilled players that are featured. The plays are being run so fast. There's a lot of 18, 19, 20-year-old freshmen on defense that can't get lined up. They can't communicate. They don't know what to do, and they get shredded because of that. But I would go in the locker room if we lost the game and say, great effort, but we got a lot of work to do on defense.
Yeah.
Right?
They're on a 4th down where a ball gets tipped up in the air. What a loss.
But just as you said about the losing team, you could say the same about the winning team. Hey, great effort. We need to work on defense. As I said, I didn't disagree with you, Greenie. It was entertaining, but it wasn't good. From a football game aspect, with the football I want to see, if I want to watch a game like that, I watch Arena. The Arena League has all kind of highs. I'll sit next to Jaws and watch his Philadelphia team play and watch an 80-70 game and know that's what's expected.
Can the number 4 team in the country be a team that gives up 52 points in a game? Is that the number 4 team in the country? That's my question.
Well, yes. Welcome to college football circa 2015. Baylor's right up there, and they're the same exact team. These teams don't play defense. That's just not what they're doing.
Isn't that part of the game? At the end of the day, which team that runs like this and scores like this has won a championship?
So I'm with you. Nobody.
So when you're thinking about voting teams in the polls, should you consider that? I love the entertainment. It's a great watch. Is it great football?
But you know what I want to see? But you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see it And obviously it didn't happen last year with both of them out. But let's see. When one of them makes it in there this year and they go against a team that plays some defense or plays both sides of the ball, then how that goes.
Let me give you an analogy, Mike Tirico, that I think you will appreciate. The last time we were all together here, you were doing my job for me in Cleveland.
That's right.
The day that Golden State won the NBA championship.
Right, that's right.
As long as you and I have been around, they've been saying you can't shoot your way to an NBA title. Well, the Warriors just shot. Why? Because the game is played differently now. Right. The strategy is different now, and maybe 10 years from now, everyone will be doing that because that's the only way to win. I think this is the direction football, John. You may not like it, Golic may not like it, but I sort of feel like that's the direction football is going, isn't it?
That is the direction a game is going. Green Bay plays like that. They're throwing the ball. A lot of their passes are running plays. They're using the up-tempo offense. They're putting the quarterback in charge. A lot of the colleges, however, look to the sideline to get the plays, but it's up-tempo. If you can't play up-tempo, get-ready defense, you're going to get beat up bad by these teams. And I just saw Ohio State win the national championship with their third-string quarterback. Yeah. Never thought I'd see that before. Exactly. I just saw Ohio State not make a first down in the second half against Northern Illinois. Maybe they should go to some of this up-tempo spread, too. Who knows?
Golden State did play defense, though.
And their
defense got better, which helped them.
They did, but they shot the ball from the outside like crazy, and that had always been sort of an old... And one more thing while we have Mr. Tirico here. Jordan Spieth, does he seal Player of the Year yesterday? Yeah. And what do we say about the year this kid had at the age of 22?
And not just him, McIlroy before and Jason Day. What they did is they helped golf turn the corner from the Mickelson-Tiger era. And that doesn't mean that those two guys will not still be around, and when they play or in contention, it will bring attention to the sport. But the way he did it and how he's done it and the individual that he is endeared Jordan Spieth to many people who didn't know he existed 2 years ago. And he really has given the game a great shot of life along with Jason Day. So the game's in a good place because of those guys. To make 20-something million, $22 million on the course when you're 21, pretty good.
He and I were both professional athletes at 21 years old. He made $22 million. I was singing my fight song for the Houston Oilers and making $62,000 for the year.
He wins. He wins.
He wins.
You guys know Tirico does golf and basketball, college?
Yes.
Pro.
I'm well aware of both of those. Yes.
He's working an NHL contract right now to do some hockey.
He does everything. I've said this many times. I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here. Mike Tirico is the only person that I feel could do my show better than me. I heard you come in and do my show, and I was like, I better get there. Get this plane to Cleveland.
He was so good that when Greeny came and was standing there, I was like, Greeny, hold on.
Hold
on.
Funny.
Just wait for a little bit.
I'm not going to lie to you. My wife was like, he's good. All right. It's tonight. It's 8:30. Of course, Monday Night Football should be a very interesting game. The Chiefs and the Packers, and these two guys will do that. They got to go to a meeting. Thank you both.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Always such a pleasure. Mike Tirico, Jon Gruden.
Happy birthday to your son.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
He's got a 26-year-old son.
Wow.
My goodness.
This has been the best of Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio Pod Center. To hear more from Mike and Mike, log on to ESPNradio.com and become an ESPN Radio Insider.
The best of Mike and Mike.
The Pirates and Cardinals have the best two records in baseball, and they go head-to-head one final time this regular season. Could this be a preview of next week's division series? Coverage begins Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio.